Hi, Didem. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Can you make us co-host to share the screen, please?
Herkesi host yapabilir miyiz, co-host yapabilir miyiz acaba ekranları sunumlar için paylaşmak için? Is it okay now, Wael? Could you?
I think it should be, because it says now share screen. Right
Okay.
underneath.
Dr. Kafina?
Can you, Wael?
We don't hear you. Your microphone is closed.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I can.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for being here with us and for this hour in this session that will comparing the PhD degrees in US and Europe. And we have two very valuable researchers and academics here with us today, Dr. Wael Kafina and Dr. Lara Kremers. Dr. Wael Kafina is academic in Bristol University in UK, and he'll be talking about the PhD education system in UK. And Dr. Lara Kremers is in Utrecht University, and she will be sharing her experiences and knowledge with us. And we would have another speaker, but because she's in the US, and because of the time difference, we have some technical problems with her. So we will be starting three of us to this session, and hopefully she will be joining us in the later hours of this session. I would like to, and also I would like to say that to Dr. Kafina and Kremers, this is an online YouTube session as well that is shared, and so probably many other audiences are hearing us at the moment that we cannot see maybe. And I would like to give the first talk to Dr. Kremers. Yes, please, Lara. Your microphone is off, I guess, and that's why we cannot hear you.
All right, classical. No, so what I was saying is that I have this wearing this headset. So if there's any that sometimes give problems when I have Teams or other types of meetings. So if there is any issue, just let me know, and then I'll just take them off and use the computer audio. But if it works, then I'll just continue. So yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lara Kremers. Indeed, I'm an associate professor at the Department of Orthopedics at the University Medical Center Utrecht. I've been working here since 2003 and supervised already, I think, about 10 or 11 PhD students on their trajectory to their defense. As such, I mainly have, of course, experience with the PhD system in biomedical sciences, so I can't talk for social or language sciences, but I'll try to explain how this works in this area of science. So yeah, just to give you a chauvinistic image of Utrecht. This is where we're locating. This is what it looks like in summer. This is the center of Utrecht. Of course, now it looks a lot more gloomy and sad. And this is our academia building, which is also in the center where we...
Dr. Kremers,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I think there's something with the, as you said, and it just, it's a buzz at the background, if it is possible. Thank you very much.
I have another one.
Okay, let's try that one then. We can hear you, I guess. No, but there is still this.
Yeah, I'm trying.
In the background. Now it's better if you have done something.
I have done something, but I don't hear you on my headset. Doesn't matter. I'll just continue and see when it starts working, and if it doesn't, just let me know. So what I was just explaining is this is actually this is the building in the heart of town. It's just right behind this big tower where we do our PhD defenses. So this is where all successful PhD candidates finish their thesis. And this is the campus of the university, in particular the part that is concerned with like the sciences like physics, so more what we call the beta sciences, so medicine, physics, chemistry, etc. And this is the hospital where I'm affiliated to the University Medical Center, and this is the center where I'm actually now, where we do most of our research. Just to give you background. So starting off at the very beginning, the education leading up to a PhD trajectory. In the Netherlands, we have a system consisting of a primary and elementary school. First one lasting for 8 years, starting already at the age of 4. Then followed by secondary school, which is 5 to 6 years. And the most relevant types of secondary school here for finishing PhD thesis would be what we call VW, which means advanced scientific education, or HAVO, which is higher education. So usually the usual trajectory leading up to a PhD is following this school, which lasts for 6 years. And then if you finish that, you are entitled to embark on a university study where you can go for a master. And it should be for your PhD trajectory in a relevant area, of course. This master can last between 4 and 6 years, a bit depending on the study that you choose, in which there is a Bachelor of Science trajectory from 2 to 3 years and a master trajectory from 2 years. And this goes for biology, but for example, also medicine, veterinary medicine, physics, etc. These all end up in a master degree. Where, for example, the physics education takes 5 years, medicine typically takes 6 years, but biology can take only 4 years. And then when you have finished these studies and have your master's degrees, you are free to embark on a PhD trajectory. An alternative, which also frequently happens, is that when pupils go to this higher education, they do a study at polytechnics for 4 years, which in the end results in a bachelor degree. After which you can then actually embark on a master. So you can just top it up with a 2 years master at university. And then, of course, you can also enter PhD trajectory. And on top of that, we have some exceptions. So these are really hard to, to achieve or to be admitted to. And that is, for example, when you have done your polytechnics, which then allows you to work as a technician. And if you have a long-term experience as a technician in doing research, and for example, have done some separate independent work, actually, you can also embark on a PhD trajectory. But that is something that then really separately needs to be requested from the board of directors of the university. And then there are some other motivated exceptions. For example, if you have someone who's done 2 bachelors but not a master, but then still 2 bachelors in one in the same period and is very good, etc., etc., that also would have to be motivated to the board of directors. And then if they approve, you can still enter into this PhD trajectory. So what is the content, what happens during this trajectory? To start off with the support, as a PhD student, you usually embark on a thesis while registering at a particular PhD school. For example, well, of course, for me, that would be regenerative medicine, but there's all kinds of other fields that you can get a certificate from. So this PhD school, you are not officially obliged to be part of a PhD school. So maybe that's different in other countries, but usually you are. And this PhD school then gives you a certificate as an add-on to your thesis later on when you defend. For all PhD students, you would have a promoter, usually professors, and co-promoters, can be assistant professors, associate, but also even postdocs, if they are long enough, which consist or together make up your promotion team, where the promoters you will probably not see that often, depends a bit, but the daily supervision, for example, will be done by the associate assistant or postdoc, and this together makes the promotion team that helps the PhD student to go through their trajectory successfully. And then in Utrecht University, and I'm not sure if it goes for all universities in the Netherlands, we have a system of mentors, which means that a PhD student, him or herself, has to look for a person, can be associate professor, full professors usually don't have time, but associate professors usually are assistant, in a department other than where the PhD student is hired. And the idea of this mentor system, these PhD students see these mentors, well, depending on what they want, but on a quite regular basis, in the absence of the supervision team. And then these mentors can talk to the PhD students about their planning, how the trajectory, also general well-being, whether they are stressed or feel like they know what they're doing. And even if there's issues with supervisors, this is something that can be then touched upon in the meeting with the mentors. In terms of content of a PhD trajectory in biomedical science, it's typically really very much a research project. So we do have a limited number of ECTS required to follow in the form of courses. But it's only 20 ECTS, 2022, I think. You can pick most of the courses. There's some that will be obligatory depending on the school, PhD school that you registered for. These are always free. The courses of your PhD school are always free. And then there's separate courses that you can pick, for example, statistics or animal course. And that will depend. Sometimes the statistics course will be free, but for example, the animal course is not free. Most courses given within the university, however, will be free of charge. So in addition to these courses and the research project, sometimes PhD students will be asked to teach, but it's very limited. I think in average, it's only like a few hours per year that you would ask to do something with students. And what we do, and it's actually also not obligatory, but yeah, if your supervisor asks you, you will not be very likely to say no. And then, of course, supervision of master students happens on a regular basis, but that's usually something the PhD students want for themselves because they like working with master students. And if you have a good student, of course, you have more work that can be done. So that we always leave up to the PhD student that is then under your care. So if you have done your work properly, I don't know, with these master students, then usually when you have about 3 to 4 papers as a first author and at least 2 published, the promotion team would say, okay, that looks good. Do write an introduction to your thesis, and then you can put these 4 chapters. You try to sort of make some kind of logical, coherent story of the 4 chapters, which is not always easy because sometimes you just do research because at that time point it is logical to do a particular project, but usually it is within at least one larger area. You sort of verbally glue it together with an introduction and then put the 4 papers or more there and finish with a general discussion. And then usually at this point, the promotion team will see, okay, is this good enough to send to the reading committee? And then this reading committee is picked from colleagues in the field or in adjacent fields, usually not from the same department. So it will always be from a different department, either in another university in the Netherlands or in an adjacent field in the same institute. Usually these would be Dutch, reading committee members. Sometimes you would ask a colleague, a foreign colleague, to also co-read the publication. But usually these can be all Dutch. And then as soon as the reading committee approves it, they get a maximum of 6 weeks for this. Then we can have the defense. In general, we pick the defense date just before sending the manuscript to the reading committee. And the defense itself is actually more a ceremony. So if you are allowed to the defense, then usually you are just through. And it's a bit of a public performance, and usually for the PhD student is nice if you do well. But in the worst cases, I know that at some point when I was PhD student, one PhD had a complete blackout during her defense, and then the whole committee of 6-7 members had to fill this 45 minutes of public defense themselves by just talking a lot. And the questions will come partly from the reading committee that will be invited. We call that Corona. So the whole committee that is asking the questions during this defense is called Corona. And then quite some, 2 or 3 members will be added to this Corona, also mostly professors, not always. That there is enough questions to ask to the defendant. And then, after these 45 minutes, the Corona leaves and convenes to discuss whether the PhD student will be allowed to get the title, but that's usually also a formality. In general, we just drink coffee then. Okay, and talk a bit. And then, they come back, and there is this quite official awarding of the thesis with all these formulas that are read from some kind of university document. And that's then basically it. So this is all I can say about it. But if anyone has any questions, do let me know.
Okay, Dilara, thank you. Maybe we continue with Wael, and after I present the Turkish system, and Berivan will be joining us shortly, I guess, and then we can have a discussion between us, among us, and then also there may be some questions to answer. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Wael. Shall we continue with you?
Sure. Thank you so much, Laura.
I think Lara needs to
stop sharing. Yeah.
Stop sharing, and then you will take over.
Right. I need to find my PowerPoint. All right. Can you see, please? Let me just take it into.
Yes, we can see clearly. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, let me just move the. Right. Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and Didem, thank you, and the committee for the kind invitation. I'm always happy to share information and work and collaborate with my Turkish colleagues and friends. So it's a pleasure. So my name is Wael Kafina. I'm associate professor in regenerative medicine at the University of Bristol, which is the university of a city in southwest England. So we are west of London, by car around 90 minutes. And my work is been for the last, God knows, probably 20 years around cartilage tissue engineering, treatment of osteoarthritis with focus on using stem cells for that purpose. So what I'm going to do today is probably take you through sorry, I'm trying to move the slides, is to really take you through a summary of general PhD education in the UK, and just talk about some details. I'm sure there will be more questions, but this is just to encompass, the main points for anyone who wants to learn about how the system works. So when we talk about probably the UK, I'm sure you'd appreciate and know the British system is quite established. It dates back to many centuries, with a lot of historic universities, and it's been a major contributor, I think, to worldwide education and knowledge. The PhD, British PhD, has a global reputation. A lot of people probably on this panel, including Didem, Laura, has done their PhD in the UK, and the reason is that research in the UK is characterized by rigor and scholarship, with an attempt to be always at the cutting edge of the student field. The students who study here will involve in innovative training and support. It's quite dynamic. It's not rigid. The student is not just going to work in the project. There are always kind of extra curricular activities that they involve in. These are not assessed. They don't count towards a degree, but they are part and parcel of the degree itself and its training and development. And the idea here is we don't just want the student to go out as a researcher. We want them to be a rounded person who are able to communicate their science. They are able to speak to stakeholders, speak to the public, and show knowledge. There is a wide range of funding options in the UK in the doctoral system. It is mainly focused for UK students and research councils, something like I think the TÜBİTAK in Turkey, but there is also other ways, especially for international students, to seek funding. Saying that, I have to also stress it is very competitive. The one also characteristics of studies in the UK is that there is focus always on addressing global questions, cutting edge questions. And therefore, a lot of PhD opportunities are attached to what funding bodies will recognize as a priority area. And that's important because that means that you are not repeating yourself. You're always working on something that will add and innovate. There is an advantage of doing a PhD in the UK, and that is quite new, by the way, and I think it's quite relevant to overseas students, is that there is now new post-study work visa. So there is a graduate route visa, that's the name, and you can Google that. It's available to international students where it's allowed for them to stay in the UK and work up to 3 years, just automatically on the basis of being awarded a PhD from the UK. So some quick statistics from the UK. There is currently 164 universities, the oldest being University of Oxford, which was established just over 1,000 years ago, or under 2,000 years ago. There is, in fact, a big cohort of international students there. There is 500,000 of students, and they keep growing. And that's just tells you the culture in the universities, that it is really multi-ethnic, cosmopolitan universities. The PhD length is between 3 and 4 years. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The fees here, I'll mention that this is just a quick, but this is for domestic rate, but it is in fact much more for overseas students. And the academic year usually starts from September to June, but for PhD it can also vary. Right. So we said there is, in fact, over 150 universities. Now, talking about the nature of the universities, they are mostly public universities, meaning that they are funded by the government, but they are also free to seek other funding in different mechanisms. I don't want to go into, but the point here is that these universities are quite independent to pursue their own research and objectives, priorities. And the amount of funding that they receive from the government is based on performance through a system called Research Excellence Framework, or REF. So the University of Bristol, for example, did extremely well lately, and we were ranked 4th in the UK after Oxford, Cambridge, and I think University College London. So that really is an important marker when you look at a university in terms of selecting where you want to go. There is a small number of private universities that operate in the UK. They are not mostly working with science. They tend to specialize in arts and business, and they usually attract hefty fees. However, their requirements for admission tend to be lenient compared to public universities. Now, there are a number of university groups, and I just highlight here that how established and how old is the system, and how much it evolved over years. So I can hear some noise in the background. Sorry, somebody is not muted their microphone. So.
Yes, we will. Could we please turn off the...
Kasım değil mi?
Thank you.
Thanks. So,
yes, please continue.
Thanks. So I think I wish to highlight this because this is probably not common knowledge to people outside the UK, that there are in fact groupings of universities that could be official or unofficial, and these groupings tend to be based on different factors. Some of them are historic. So we have the ancient universities that I think many people know about, like Oxford, Cambridge, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Edinburgh. And these were, built hundreds of years ago. And of course, they are quite established. Usually, they are leaders in the field of education. Of course, I think this is quite known. But there is a new newish grouping, for the last I think few decades. It's called the Russell Group, which is an association of 24 universities that are really research intensive. These are the universities that lead most of the output for PhD in the UK, and they do a lot of cutting edge research. There is also a small group called the Red Brick Universities, which came, if you like, 40, 50 years ago. So they are usually based in cities, and they are also quite established. And then there is the most recent ones, which is post-1992, when the government decided to change some or invite some polytechnics to become accredited as universities. So these are usually institutions that used to provide professional and vocational training, but their scope of teaching and quality basically has been updated, upgraded to the level of a university, and they become universities. So as far as I think people from around the world, including Turkey, some governments, I want to stress that, some governments and higher education ministries around the world dictate that they will not recognize a PhD unless it is from the Russell Group or an ancient university. So keep that in mind. That's not against the a degree from the red brick universities or post 92. As I said, that's not always the case, but because the two top groups are known and established for their history in research, some governments dictate that they basically do that, that we go for these universities. Okay. Right, so I'll probably need to speed up. So talking about UK doctoral degrees, the idea here is that we need to remember that it is independent research qualification. So from the beginning, you will do the research, the student will be involved. There isn't any formal taught component like in the US. You will have some additional training, as I said, and development, but you will gain a lot of experience through your research. The doctoral degree is always described as PhD. It could be sometimes called Doctor of Philosophy. There is also professional doctorates. And the system works by, having this PhD for a minimum of 3 years, but it can go up to 4 years. Part-time also is possible, but that's not usually possible for international students. Just like Laura mentioned, there is a system of supervision. So you will be basically part of a PhD supervisor group, and who will really be a specialist in the field. They will give you a lot of information and guide you and supervise you in all ways. There is always a second supervisor also. They are usually there for pastoral care. They could sometimes assume active role, but they are usually there to help you with the professional development and training. Similarly, there is in fact what we call annual progression monitoring. So there is a panel of independent scientists from the same university who are not doing your research, who will also follow up with the student and check on their progress and advise independently. So the PhD structure is pure research, no taught classes. Some universities require that you do MPhil. In fact, for overseas students, it's the minimum requirement. And some UK universities offer more structured PhD, especially if it is part of what we call doctoral program. This is just an overview of how a PhD will run, and that research development is basically the work in the lab most of the time. But you can see there is always areas, especially when you start, where you look at the planning, introduction, and then as you do that, you look into ethical consideration. Safety, and there is always annual review points during the PhD. At the end, the student has to submit a thesis. This thesis could be between 60 and 100,000 words, depending on the topic. And this will be followed by a viva by 2 examiners, one internal, one external. Usually the external is the specialist in the field. They should have international outstanding standing, and this viva is in fact your examination. So unlike, for example, what Laura described in the European or Dutch system, the PhD is judged based on the thesis that is written, the data, and that examination in the end. Publication is not a requirement, but it is highly expected, at least after the PhD. And unlike the system in the Netherlands, for example, this viva is not just ceremonial; it is in fact the examination. Right. So this is the tricky part that concerns a lot of overseas students, and where we really talk about fees. So there is the fees here are really quite expensive, especially if you're doing lab-based PhD. There is a requirement even for bench fees. Usually, a lot of overseas students are funded by their government when they come here, or they probably have enough money, but that's quite rare to be self-funded. But there are, in fact, a number of scholarships and studentships and charities that can support, and some universities, in fact, provide scholarships for overseas students. Just to wrap up, admission requirements are there. So, as I said, the master is required most of the time for a PhD from overseas students. There is also the requirement for language proficiency. Also the degree where the student, the BSc degree and masters have to be from a list of recognized universities. A lot of Turkish universities are accredited and recognized by the UK system, so that's not a problem. Some other, places in the world may not be. The application will involve a proposal, personal statement, and references. And that will be usually followed by interview, just to ensure that there is compatibility and assurance that this student will fit in the group. I'll just finish here just to highlight that prospects of employment once you have a British PhD is quite high. Just focusing here on tissue engineering. So this is a snapshot from the Times magazine in the year 2000, predicting that tissue engineering, artificial intelligence, which are now very, very common, is one of the hottest jobs. I'm not sure about that exactly, but that was a good prediction. And this is just a list of jobs that are available in that area once you finish. So there is excitement from finishing a PhD from the UK. And thank you so much, and sorry if I went over time.
Thank you, Wael. It was very well informative and in detail. You gave the wide range of information regarding the PhD system in UK. And now Berivan will be talking about the US system. And having a background from the Turkish system as well, maybe after she finishes the US, she can make some comparison related to her PhD times and now where she's working.
Hello, everyone. Actually, now here is almost 6:30 a.m. So for me, good morning. For you, good afternoon. I want to talk about a little bit the US education, not only PhD, also bachelor degree for all states. Okay, let me start my first slides. In US, there are public and private universities or colleges, and as you know, we call it for public state universities in US, and actually for all public and private universities or schools, students need to pay tuition annually. So it's actually that income, family income, actually in US is very important, except PhD, because when they are it depends on the student tuition, investment income, research construct, and private donations. You need to also, for example, in US, there are some special universities, we call it Ivy Leagues. In Ivy Leagues, for bachelor degree also, you need to show your family income instead of your scholarship, or you are exceed in research and in high school. So the support of that family income is also important in bachelor degree. So what's next? Also there at universities and college that I told, the terms of university and college are used interchangeably. In each institution, you may find schools such as arts, science, or school of business. and each school actually is responsible for the degree programs, the college or university in that area. And four-year college or universities in the United States, actually there are more than 600 public and 1,700 private schools. And also there are community college. It's called also known as junior college or two-year college, and provide two-year associate degree programs and short certificate like diploma programs in various academic and vocational fields. And actually this form a transitional academic link between high school and the universities also. And students move easily into the third year of bachelor degree at the local state university. Actually, in US education is similar, I mean, Turkey education is similar to US, I mean, almost same in bachelor degree and PhD degree. I will also talk about those things. But how about the technical and vocational college in Turkey? It's the same also. It's these colleges preparing students for work, offer certificates and short-term programs for, to training students in specific technologies. Again, programs usually around 2 years, maybe sometimes less. Like in Turkey, there are several thousand technical and vocational colleges across the all over the United States, in all, including all states. And yeah, for bachelor degree, generally students, as you can see, the generally students going to business. They want to finish the business degree. The second one is social science and history degrees, then educational degrees, and then health professions like nurse or related that clinical science degrees, and physiology degrees, then visual art degree. It is also very now, last 10 years is very, very popular in US. And then journalism or communication, and then our field area, biological and biomedical science degrees, then engineering, then English language and computer science, and then liberal arts and science or general studies in humanities degree. Okay, when we check the percentage of the PhD degrees after the bachelor degree is very little, it's very less. So because after the bachelor degree in US, students generally try to go into companies for working, for jobs conditions, because in companies actually giving a very good salaries, so they don't want to do PhD or master. Sometimes they can join the master degree, because there are also some master degrees here without thesis. So after 4-year degree, bachelor degree, they are joining to one more year and finalize the master degree without thesis, not Master of Science. So PhD is actually a little bit different from UK, but actually same as in Turkey. For PhD, you can join from abroad also. They can you can get a visa easily for PhD students from consulate. generally, I mean, immediately they give you a 5-year visa, student visa. And then when you join here, or even you are living in US, you can start as a teaching or a research assistant, and actually you can get your salary per month. It's actually the good money for one person. I mean, $2,000, sometimes $25,000. And first 2 years in your PhD studies, you are just getting some courses, some grades. But in the meantime, you are trying to fix the topic of this session, your thesis topic, and actually you are trying to learning the US education, because before your PhD, if you come from the abroad, you need to also here it is very important when you start something new and if you are coming from abroad, for first 2 years they are trying to they are trying to fix and learn to do the US education. And then after 2 years and which is done, you can start 100% your thesis, and you can go forward to PhD for 6 years, up to 6 years. But after 4 years in PhD, you cannot get your salary, actually. For the salary for teaching research assistant or research and teaching assistant, you can join to teach courses, some in lab courses. We have some bachelor clinics teaching courses, and some PhD students can join and teach them, or in laboratory can join and teach them. So after the 4 years or 6 years, you can finalize your PhD. But as I mentioned here, generally, if the students did their bachelor degree in US, they are generally choosing to work in companies, not to do the doctorate because of the money, because of the financial issues. Okay, let me continue. The best universities here, actually, as we know, the first 10 in all over the world. So those universities is very, very tough and hard, starting with the bachelor, because in here also not only your academic background or your high school recommendation letters from your high school teachers, or the other scholarships, things not only important, also family income plus family income is very important. But those universities in PhD is very popular. In PhD, in those universities, you can easily join from abroad if you are trying to get a communication and apply for things. But as I know, in master you have to pay, but in PhD you can get a salary. Let me continue. How about
could we also tidy up soon, because it's only 10 minutes?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so for decision to evaluate the institutions consider students for admission and decision general, evaluate the following titles, subtitle, recommendation letters, student written essay, and that's another important thing. Your leadership potential, it is important. Yeah, here is actually you need to marketing also important for yourself, and also participation in the activities, extracurricular activities, and the other hobbies like music, theater, audition is also needs to require. They also care those kind of things. Okay, I talk about the financial. Oh, it didn't mention up here. I'm sorry. Financial issues in US also. You need some grants, scholarships, and some awarded by maybe government or non-government organizations as well. And in US, actually, the government also supported and provides a very high money salaries per year for that students, because especially not bachelor and master, but in PhD, research is very important. They started to take care of the research in starting the PhD studies. And then okay, this is the, I guess, last slide. More than 170 students earn academic credit each year by other countries. That these are the top 5 destination countries for undergraduate students are first United Kingdom, Italy, Spain, France, and Australia, and more than 550,000 international students study actually at US. And again, undergraduate and PhD countries from the abroad students are generally, of course, Chinese, India, Japan, South Korea, and Canada. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
I need to stop sharing, right?
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. And other questions? I think Dr. Kafina needs to leave soon and attend another meeting. But if you have any questions, first you may ask to him. Or otherwise, I will be asking a general question. Just from what I follow, I think in UK and in the UK and in the US, it's just generally this is more. It's attracting a lot of international students, as far as I concerned, and which I realized that about 500,000 in UK and 500,000 in States is a lot of number, a big number of students. And as Wael mentioned, that it is the tuition fees are quite high, especially for the international students. That's why, from the university's point of view, this is a big income for the university to have these international students. Whereas I think in Netherlands and in Holland, and also it's not the case. That's not the requirement, isn't it? If it is more or less the same, is there an extra fee for the international students compared?
No, there's no. But I mean, the thing is that our PhD students are always hired from particular project money, so they are just paid as employees in a way. So as soon as they're employee from our university, automatically there is no tuition fee. So the tuition fee is more important for master students, foreign master students, for example. But for PhD, you are actually already a colleague at that point. And then the university does get money for PhD students, but it's at the finish. So if they defend their thesis, then the university gets about 90,000 euros per finished PhD.
I see. Okay. And one of the things I would like to ask to all of you that, it was one of the shortcomings of the PhD study in Turkey that I come up with, because like in Turkey, we have about 110,000 PhD students, and most of these students will not be able to get into academic in the universities and the teaching positions or research positions, so they may go into industry. So how prepared your students are for this further job requirements? And are there any extra courses for these students? And well, Lara, and also for Berivan, this question is.
Well,
like the management skills and other things, because industry is quite different from the academic life environment. That's why I'm asking this question.
Yeah, I can happy to go first. I mean, so your question is how prepared are the graduates for the outside world?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I mean that's the point of conducting, high quality research, is that the students will be hopefully graduating with a lot of skills, and this is really important. This wasn't the case like 20 years ago maybe. There is now more focus on making sure the student is leading with a range of skills, so that they are prepared for the competitive market. Where they end up as PhD, I mean, it's usually academia or industry. There is a small proportion of people who really kind of discover themselves at the end of the PhD and find that this is not really, as they say, their cup of tea. So they end up doing something else. It's a small majority. It's probably 10-20%, I would say. And that's fine, because the PhD will have taught you a lot of skills that may be suitable for different jobs. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any
side,
comments?
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, I think it's a good question. We don't really prepare our students to go into industry, although sometimes there would be courses offered on commercialization or IP. But not, for example, on management. But I think actually also in science you are a manager, and I still think we should get more education actually in this type of management. But I think that's a bit underestimated at the moment. But general things on industry life, there is access to the students, but they hardly ever choose to do these types of studies or courses.
Okay. Do you have any comments extra you would like to add, Wael, Lara, Berivan?
No, actually no. But in US a little bit, I don't know, all things a little bit different from the world. Yeah, as I said, students want to join immediately to companies or industries. Not too much PhD if they are from US, but generally PhD education comes from from abroad. I mean, the students who is coming from the abroad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they are occupying most of the places in the system. That's international students.
Yeah, international students allow for especially PhD. Yeah, after PhD, if even they come from abroad, they still can join. For example, very academic. They have very academic good skills, but money is here important. They want to go forward with the companies.
Okay, Lara was saying something, so I'll give.
I'm sorry.
No, sorry. I thought you finished. Sorry, Berivan. Yes.
Yeah, I finished. Okay.
No, Berivan, I was just wondering: is the majority of the PhD students in the US, do they come on fellowships they arrange themselves or money, or is it? Also...
No. Family income here in bachelor degree is very, very important. In PhD,
family income, really?
Yeah, especially with those Ivy Leagues. Yeah. I mean, you have to pay. Even in scholarship. I mean, most of the state universities is support you if you have a good scholarship or if you have a good recommendation academic background in high school. But those kind of maybe 15 universities is also consider the family income. It's important. But for PhD, you don't need to pay. I mean, even if you come from abroad, you can work as a teaching or research assistant, and they are paying you per month $2,000 or $2,500. So it is a good money, personal.
And how much time do you then have for research if you have to teach all the time?
No teaching. Not too much. Actually, teaching is not like in the class. There are some students from bachelor. We are calling them clinics students. Means that some students joining as like 4 or 5 groups, and they can show you some lab experiments, some research. Not too much, but as I told, research assistant also. It means that they are doing their research in PhD. I mean, they call it like that, and they are paying. So they are lucky, but they need to finalize their PhD in 4 years. If they don't, if they postpone or delay that PhD until 6 years, after 4 years, they don't pay. But PhD is generally based on the research. I mean, teaching, not like the always teaching, some experimental teaching. Yeah. Helping them.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I think we've used all our time, and thank you for your contribution and attending to this session with me. And for the audience, thank you also staying with us through this hour. And if you have any questions, you can later on privately write or share your questions with us so we can share them with speakers. Thank you. So I'm ending this session.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
Okay. Bye. Bye.